Shabbat Shalom Yasharala. Welcome to week 30 of our Torah Portion series. We will be covering Leviticus 16 through chapter 20 today, highlighted with Leviticus 16, Day of Atonement. Before we get into this line-by-line reading, let's ask Abba to send the Ruach to help us discern and learn. Heavenly Abba, Barak your name, Shabbat Shalom. And for all that you do and all that you are that goes unnoticed and unseen by us, Tawadah, thank you. We humbly ask for the Ruach to help us understand and to grow in this walk with learning and discipline and understanding throughout this word we are about to read. We ask for the blessing to discern a matter, to grow, and to be given grace and mercy to allow us to be who you desire us to be, which is perfect, Heavenly Abba, to do your will and your will alone. Please align us with the word, Heavenly Abba, and in all that we do. We love you. By Hashem Yeshaya, we pray. Amen and amen. All right, Leviticus 16. As I said, this is the chapter where the instructions for the Day of Atonement, one of the Leviticus 23 feast days, or I should say appointed times, because there is no feasting on this day. Appointed times. First instructions given here, Leviticus 16.
Leviticus 16. Now the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of two of Aaron's sons, when they approached the presence of the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron not to enter freely into the most holy place behind the veil in front of the mercy seat on the ark, or else he will die, because I appear in the cloud above the mercy seat. This is how Aaron is to enter the holy place, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to wear the sacred linen tunic with linen undergarments. He must tie a linen sash around him and put on the linen turban. These are holy garments, and he must bathe himself with water before he wears them. And he shall take from the congregation of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering."
All right, so this is building on what we've been reading all Leviticus. They've given us the general instructions for sacrifices, different type of sacrifices. They gave us the instructions already for the garments, the linen garments of the priests. What we're witnessing now is a specific instructions just for, which we'll see by the end of this chapter, that this clarifies that this is in the 7th month, 10th day, Day of Atonement in verse 29. So these are specific instructions just for this day, with the buildup of all the instructions we've been given already with the priesthood of what they're them cleaning themselves, the garments they wear, and how they do the sacrifices. So that being said, we see on this Day of Atonement that he puts his holy garments on, and he shall take from the congregation 2 male goats for a sin offering. We see mentioned in about sin offerings for the people in Leviticus 4:27-31. And if any one of the common people sin through ignorance, while he doeth somewhat against any of the commands of the Most High, which ought not to be done, and be guilty, or if his sin, which he has sinned, come to his knowledge, then he shall bring his offering, a kid of the goats, a female without blemish. So in general terms, on a regular day, it would be a female. Specifically for Day of Atonement, he's requesting 2 males. But still the same idea, same type of slaughtering of the animals that we've been given right here in Leviticus 4 on the procedure. Just we're about to read some extra details just for the event of Day of Atonement alone, though. For his sin which he has sinned, and he shall lay his hand upon the head of the sin offering and slay the sin offering in the place of the burnt offering. And the priest shall take of the blood thereof with his finger and put it upon the horns of the altar of the burnt offering, and shall pour out the blood thereof at the bottom of the altar. And he shall take away all the fat thereof, as the fat is taken away from off the sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall burn it upon the altar for a sweet savor unto the Most High, and the priest shall make an atonement for him, and he shall be forgiven him. And I read all of that because we're going to see some, like I said, similarities with these instructions, just like I said, specific changes just for Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement. So bringing goats is what they do for, is one of the animals they can bring for sin offerings. Continuing verse 6.
Aaron is to present the bull for his sin offering and make atonement for himself and his household.
And once again, Aaron needed to get a bull for his offering. So he read for the common people, if they sin in ignorance, they can bring forth a kid of goats. If a priest that is anointed do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin a young bullock. Present the bull, right? And that description fits Aaron, right? He is the priest that has been anointed as high priest. All right, so like I said, this is just putting all together instructions that we have already been given. Verse 7.
Then he shall take the 2 goats and present them before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting. After Aaron casts lots for the 2 goats, one for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat, he shall present the goat chosen by lot for the Lord and sacrifice it as a sin offering. But the goat chosen by lot as the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord, to make atonement by sending it into the wilderness as the scapegoat.
All right, we see the scapegoat here. In the notations, it says literally the other 2 Azazel. So it's Azazel. I don't know why it's written that way. And we'll look at this in our picture. So the word for scapegoat, let me zoom in. We see the translation right here, scapegoat. The actual word for scapegoat in Hebrew is Azazel. That is literally what this story is about, like quite literally. And we see it's translated goat of departure, scapegoat, but that is literally the name of an fallen angel, which is the pictures to the left of it here. This is just showing that Azazel is one and the same of Satan. They have the same magic. And we're going to read in about a goat demon. Right after Leviticus 16, we're going to read about a goat demon. This is who this is about. If there is a goat demon to be mentioned, it is talking about a fallen angel. So all of these things are connected to demonic practices and or Satan, right? It's no coincidence. This is all in your Bible, all in the text. So every time you read and see scapegoat, the 4 times it can be translated as such, this is exactly who it's talking about, which is why it's depicted as a goat. And this story can be found in the book of Enoch, which makes the book of Enoch such an important book. There's no other book that gives you this information that clearly the rest of the scriptures are relying on for you to know what it's talking about. How else are we supposed to know about the scapegoat Azazel without the book of Enoch? So let's read, touch on a couple of just notes. If you want a full study on Day of Atonement, go check out my YouTube. I have multiple studies on Day of Atonement and a lot more details and reading within Enoch in the story of the fallen angels, aka the Watchers, connected with the story of the Day of Atonement. All right, we're going to be reading Enoch 8, verse 1 and 2. Zoom in here for everyone's eyeballs. And Azazel taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets and ornaments, and the use of autonomy, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Now, you know anything about the Watchers, there's way more than just Azazel. He is just the one that is picked. I guess he did it first or did it worse or the most. For whatever reason, he is singled out. But continuing, we're going to go to chapter 10, continuing with this judgment. I'm going to just read verse 4 through 8. 4 through 8. And again, the Adon said to Raphael, bind Azazel, aka the scapegoat. And let's remember how the story goes that we're about to read in Leviticus 16. The punishment that they give a real fallen angel called Azazel is depicted in the story of Day of Atonement. Okay? Remember how this plays out as we read back in Leviticus. Bind Azazel hand and foot and cast him into the darkness and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of great judgment, which prophetically falls on Day of Atonement, he shall be cast into the fire and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish through all the secret things that the Watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth have been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And in a nutshell, there you have it. That's why he is called a scapegoat, because all sin will be ascribed to Azazel that corrupted him and his associates, corrupt the whole the whole earth on the day that they came down and did all of these acts that is mentioned in chapter 8 and multiple chapters throughout the book of Enoch. All right. So now we have the introduction of the scapegoat. We can get on with the rest of Day of Atonement. Let's continue. Verse 11.
When Aaron presents the bull for his sin offering and makes atonement for himself and his household, he is to slaughter the bull for his own sin offering. Then he must take a censer full of burning coals from the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense, and take them inside the veil. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, and the cloud of incense will cover the mercy seat above the testimony, so that he will not die. And he is to take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger on the east side of the mercy seat. Then he shall sprinkle some of it with his finger 7 times before the mercy seat. Aaron shall then slaughter the goat for the sin offering for the people, and bring its blood behind the veil. And with its blood he must do as he did with the bull's blood. He is to sprinkle it against the mercy seat and in front of it. So he shall make atonement for the most holy place because of the impurities and rebellious acts of the Israelites in regard to all their sins. He is to do the same for the tent of meeting, which abides among them, because it is surrounded by their impurities. No one may be in the tent of meeting from the time Aaron goes in to make atonement in the most holy place until he leaves, after he has made atonement for himself, his household, and the whole assembly of Israel.
All right. Before we continue, let's go to Hebrews now. Hebrews chapter 9, 7 through 12. Reference to verses 12 to 17 about him going inside the veil of the Holy of Holies, right? But into the second went the high priest alone once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself. That was the bull, right? And for the errors of the people in the goat. The Holy Spirit, this signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet made manifest, while as the first tabernacle was yet standing, which was a figure for the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect, as pertaining to the conscience, which stood only in meats and drinks and divers washings and cardinal ordinances imposed on them until the time of Reformation. But Mashiach, being come and high priest, the order of Melchizedek, of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, not made with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats or calves, but by his own blood, he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. And so we know about the Passover lamb, the blood of our Mashiach, and there's a story parable in Enoch. I have a line by line reading, and it's called the Animal Apocalypse on my YouTube. But it gives pretty much just like everything is a metaphor through animals of the whole history of mankind is highlighted through the animals. But I mean, taking that and when we line it that understanding with the feast days, it's the same thing. We're reading about it right now. We read about the whole animal thing with the goats and the scapegoat. We're reading about it right now that is actually about a real angel. But there is a ritual done with a goat representing a real angel. And then we read about Hebrews, how Mashiach came as our perfect sacrifice, represented as a lamb. Just thought it was very interesting how the idea of the animal apocalypse, parable, metaphor story is technically involved in at least the majority of the meaningful animals that are brought up, specifically the two big ones, which is the scapegoat and the Passover lamb, actually represent two angelic beings being played out. Just thought it was interesting, but yes, Hebrews reminds us that we're in a new priesthood of Mashiach being our high priest. He gave one perfect sacrifice that covers us, so it doesn't have to be done every single year, which is the whole point of what Hebrews 9 is speaking on here. All right, so this is what we just read, that Aaron had to go into the holiest of holies and do the ritual to cleanse himself and the people once a year. Continuing verse 18 now.
Then he shall go out to the altar that is before the Lord, and make atonement for it. He is to take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood, and put it on all the horns of the altar. He is to sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times, to cleanse it and consecrate it from the uncleanness of the Israelites. When Aaron has finished purifying the most holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, he is to bring forward the live goat. Then he is to lay both hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities and rebellious acts of the Israelites in regard to all their sins. He is to put them on the goat's head and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man appointed for the task. The goat will carry on itself all their iniquities into a solitary place, and the man will release it into the wilderness.
All right, let's do a little comparison. It says that the goat will be released in the wilderness, which is going to be a dark desert place. You ever go in a wilderness area where there isn't people living? Like we've been in West Texas. You go to West Texas, you it's one of the largest dark sky, if not it is the largest reserved dark sky area. And it's over there, right? Big Bend National Park. And when you go out there, it is definitely a good depiction of the wilderness. It is dark, dry wilderness desert. And so with a lot of rocks, thorns, thistles, it's rough. It's rough. And so that's what I think of when we read about this and being put and cast into darkness in a wilderness desert, and rocks will be on him and cover him and whatnot. Let's see. Oh, but yeah, I wanted to go into the story. We see him cast into the darkness, the desert, and then Azazel, to him ascribe all sin. Exactly what we just got done reading here. Goat will carry on itself all their iniquity, sin, into a solitary place, and a man will release it into the wilderness. It's like almost reacting a play, right? It's a whole ritual of you putting away the sins, you separating the sins, and Azazel representing that sin. Verse 23, let's continue.
Then Aaron is to enter the tent of meeting, take off the linen garments he put on before entering the most holy place, and leave them there. He is to bathe himself with water in a holy place and put on his own clothes. Then he must go out and sacrifice his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering, to make atonement for himself and for the people. He is also to burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man who released the goat as the scapegoat must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may re-enter the camp. The bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make atonement, must be taken outside the camp, and their hides, flesh, and dung must be burned up. The one who burns them must wash his clothes and bathe himself with water, and afterward he may re-enter the camp.
And once again, I'm not going to bring a verse for everything, but this is just reiterating the instructions given to the priesthood already that we read about, right?
This is to be a permanent statute for you. On the 10th day of the 7th month, you shall humble yourselves and not do any work, whether the native or the foreigner who resides among you, because on this day atonement will be made for you to cleanse you, and you will be clean from all your sins before the Lord. It is a Sabbath of complete rest for you, that you may humble yourselves. It is a permanent statute. The priest who is anointed and ordained to succeed his father as high priest shall make atonement. He will put on the sacred linen garments and make atonement for the most holy place, the tent of meeting, and the altar, and for the priests and all the people of the assembly. This is to be a permanent statute for you, to make atonement once a year for the Israelites because of all their sins. And all this was done as the Lord had commanded Moses.
And this is, once again, why it's so important to be under the righteous priesthood of our Mashiach. He is the high priest in the order of Melchizedek, which is all throughout Hebrews. If you're not in the Melchizedek priesthood, then how is your sins covered? Because there is no priesthood doing this ritual in a correct way any longer. There's a reason for that. And just recapping of verse 29 of this day being a commandment to keep annually on the 10th day of the 7th month. We see this in Leviticus 23, 26 through 32. And the Most High spoke unto Moses, saying, also in the 10th day of the 7th month there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls. Excuse me. And offer an offering made by fire unto the Most High. Ye shall do no work in the same day, for it is the day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Most High your Elohim. For whatsoever so it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever so it be that doeth any work in the same day, in the same soul will I destroy from among his people. Ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations and all your dwellings. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at evening. From evening to evening ye shall celebrate your Sabbath. I wanted to read that last part because it didn't give us that instruction in Leviticus 16, but we see a little bit more details there. And then it's just, once again, reiterated in Numbers 29 as another witness with focus of the sacrifices on that day. Not going to read that, just a little note. Numbers 29, 7 through 11 is another witness and instructions for Day of Atonement. And that is, let me make sure I checked all. Yep, that is the conclusion of chapter 16. Yom Kippur. All right, chapter 17. The place of sacrifice. Now, let me say this even before we read it. The Most High in this chapter is given specific instructions on we already read about the instructions, all this very important details of how to do the sacrifices. And 2 of Aaron's sons died because they changed those details on how they were going to bring the fire and the censers, right? So it's that important. The Most High made it clear it's this important we get these instructions right, especially when you're dealing with holy things of sacrifices. And now he's about to give us specific instructions for the place of sacrifice. So we take this in and we got to understand this is why you can't do your own sacrifices. The Most High has to choose a place for you to do your sacrifices and a lot more. Let's just get to the reading, but this just goes into more understanding of why you shouldn't be building an altar in your backyard, because the Most High has to choose a place that he allows you to anoint to be a sacrificial spot. It's a lot to it than just building an altar.
Leviticus 17. Then the Lord said to Moses, speak to Aaron, his sons, and all the Israelites, and tell them, this is what the Lord has commanded. Anyone from the house of Israel who slaughters an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp or outside of it, instead of bringing it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to present it as an offering to the Lord before his tabernacle, that man shall incur blood guilt. He has shed blood and must be cut off from among his people. For this reason, the Israelites will bring to the Lord the sacrifices they have been offering in the open fields. They are to bring them to the priest at the entrance to the tent of meeting and offer them as sacrifices of peace to the Lord.
All right, it does clear this up in a few verses, because if you just read it straightforward, it kind of throws you off, because it says anyone from the house of Israel who slaughters an ox, a lamb, or a goat in the camp or outside, instead of the tent of meeting, will incur blood guilt. They shall be cut off. And so this isn't just talking about killing an animal. It sounds like, oh, wait a minute, they can't kill an ox, a lamb, or a goat anywhere. Where are they supposed to kill their animals? Because it's not talking about just killing an animal. It's talking about slaughtering an animal for sacrifices. And I like the Targum's writing on this. So I'm going to read verse 3 through 5 just to make it that much more clear. But like I said, it clarifies itself, I think, by verse 8 and 9. A man of the house of Israel, young or old, who shall kill as a sacrifice a bullock. So that's the thing that's kind of just says slaughter. Okay. It's slaughtered as a sacrifice. A bullock, a lamb, a goat in the camp, or who killeth it without the camp, and bringeth it not to the door of the tabernacle of ordinances to offer it an oblation before the Adon, before the tabernacle of the Adon. The blood of the slaughter shall be reckoned to that man. It shall be to him as if he has shed innocent blood, blood guilt, and that man shall be destroyed from his people. In order that the sons of Israel may bring their sacrifices which they have heretofore killed on the face of the field, they may henceforth bring them before the Adon at the door of the tabernacle of ordinances unto the priests and sacrifice their consecrated victims before the Adon. So clearly stating, stop trying to kill your animals anywhere you want that's supposed to be for the sacrifice. He's saying there's no more of doing it that way. Where you bring it to me, I have designated a place of sacrifice, and that's through the Levites at the door of the tabernacle. How you should bring it. And let's continue reading, because there's a purpose behind this outside of just people doing what they want to do. But there is more to it. Verse 6.
The priest will then sprinkle the blood on the altar of the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. They must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat demons to which they have prostituted themselves. This will be a permanent statute for them for the generations to come. Tell them that if anyone from the house of Israel or any foreigner living among them offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it to the Lord, that man must be cut off from his people.
So now, full understanding here. So this is one of, outside of the purpose of the Levites doing the sacrifices, clearly, if you have sacrifices, you bring it to the Levites to the tent of meeting, right? But the other side of this was because people were still doing sacrifices to other gods and doing stuff their own way. And it straight up says, verse 7, they must no longer offer their sacrifices to the goat demons. The goat demons, a goat idol. What'd I say? The chapter right after Leviticus 16 about the scapegoat, which is a fallen angel, a little g god. He says, you are no longer to make sacrifices to goat demon idols. I think it's very clear who he is referring to here. And also, just looking at, this is the word for the Hebrew word, Strong's 8163, for that goat demon. And we see here that word can be also translated as devil. Another interesting thing is that the word can be translated as hairy twice, like hairy as a goat. And the 2 times it's translated as hairy is the description of Esau. Very interesting. The word that is used for devil and goat demon is the same characteristic description of Esau. those two Harrys. Thought that was interesting. All right. And it makes it clear what this is talking about, as I was saying earlier at the beginning of the chapter, that offers a burnt offering or sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance to the tent of meeting to sacrifice it. That's what all of this was referring to when it says, who slaughters an ox in the camp or outside of it and doesn't bring it. He's like, no more of doing what you want, and especially no more of sacrificing animals to other goat demons. All right, verse 10. Laws against eating blood.
If anyone from the house of Israel or a foreigner living among them eats any blood.
Oh, hold on. I forgot a verse for 8 and 9 about bringing it to the entrance of the tent of meeting. Sorry, 1 second. Deuteronomy 12:11. Then there shall be a place which the Most High your Elohim shall choose to cause his name to dwell there. Thither shall ye bring all that I command you, your burnt offerings, your sacrifices, your tithes, which is, not money. This is the offerings, and the heave offerings of your hand, and all your choice vows which ye vow unto the Most High. So just another verse declaring that the Most High will choose a place on where his sacrifices will abide. You can't just do it anywhere you want. He was setting it up. He was saying, put it here, anoint this, do it this way. And once again, with the sons of Aaron being put to death, we see how important it is to get this right. All right. Continuing now, still verse 10.
I will set my face against that person and cut him off from among his people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you to make atonement for your souls upon the altar. For it is the blood that makes atonement for the soul. Therefore I say to the Israelites, none of you may eat blood, nor may any foreigner living among you eat blood. And if any Israelite or foreigner living among them hunts down a wild animal or bird that may be eaten, he must drain its blood and cover it with dirt. For the life of all flesh is its blood. Therefore I have told the Israelites, you must not eat the blood of any living thing, because the life of all flesh is its blood. Whoever eats it must be cut off.
All right. Matthew 26:28, for this is my blood of the new covenant, which is shed for many for the remission of sins. Foreshadowed prophetically in Isaiah 53, verse 5, but he was wounded for our transgressions, remission of sins. He was bruised for our iniquity. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Stripes of what? Blood, right? Stripes of blood. Verse 11 and 12, and he shall see the travail of his soul and shall be satisfied. By his knowledge shall my righteous servant justify many, for he shall bear their iniquities. Therefore will I divide him a portion with the great, and he shall divide a spoil with the strong, because he has poured out what? Blood, his soul unto death. And he was numbered with the transgressors, and he bare the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. And then I also wanted to go into the story of in the book of Jasher, chapter 76, verse 29, about life being in the blood. And this is what the wise men of Pharaoh told him when the Israelites were in captivity in Egypt. Chapter 76, verse 29. A plague came upon Pharaoh, and he was asking his wise men and sorcerers to cure him. Verse 29, and his wise men and sorcerers said unto him that if the blood of little children, we know about the idea of this, adrenochrome or whatever they want to call it, right? Which is, I mean, that's what that's supposed to be. Were put into the wounds, he would be healed. So there's nothing new under the sun. Supposedly, people are still doing stuff with this, to putting it on their face, drinking it to be healed and to live longer. And all of these are Satanists of the world, obviously doing the opposite of the instructions given to us to not eat blood. All right, let's finish off chapter 17.
And any person, whether native or foreigner, who eats anything found dead or mauled by wild beasts, must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will be unclean until evening. Then he will be clean. But if he does not wash his clothes and bathe himself, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Exactly. Og Riley mentioned that in Acts 15, which James and Peter speaks up and just says, "Hey, y'all, if y'all want to walk this walk, people that's coming into the fold, y'all gotta immediately stop eating blood." And a number of other things, but the topic at hand is that eating the blood has to stop immediately, which is clearly what other nations been doing for generations. And eating anything that has been died of its own will make you unclean until evening. And that is chapter 17. All right, now we're in unlawful sexual relations. In a nutshell, we're going to see that wives, anybody else's wife, close to kin sisters, your grandchildren, stepsisters, aunts and uncles, daughter-in-law, your direct mother and daughter, sex on a menstrual cycle, adultery of any kind, of obviously any married woman, homosexuality, and bestiality. Just in a nutshell, this is all the unlawful sexual relations, and they give it in different ways. But let's break it down now.
Leviticus 18. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, I am the Lord your God. You must not follow the practices of the land of Egypt, where you used to live, and you must not follow the practices of the land of Canaan, into which I am bringing you. You must not walk in their customs. You are to practice my judgments and keep my statutes by walking in them. I am the Lord your God. Keep my statutes and my judgments, for the man who does these things will live by them. I am the Lord."
I want to say something real quick. I had someone reach out and to prove what is pagan and what is not pagan. And I asked her, and I said, where does it even talk about in the Bible about the word pagan? The word pagan isn't even in the Bible. Okay. The point I was making was, instead of trying to prove or disprove what is pagan, is you're looking at it from the wrong direction. You need to prove or disprove if we are practicing his judgments, keeping his statutes, and walking by his commandments. The Most High does not go over every custom of the nations. Y'all really think this book is to go over every custom of the Canaanites and the Egyptians and all the people around the world? It's not our job to prove where things come from. Our job is to prove if we're actually keeping what we are told to keep. Because if you're keeping things that are not in the scriptures, then where did it come from? That's the point. It didn't come from the word, which means it came from the world. Very easy to prove something. Is it from Abba? When you go to the source and stop trying to prove things of the world. Everybody on Google trying to prove what is pagan or not. It's upside down research. Go to the word, and if it ain't there, then guess where it came from? Customs from the nations. Very, very simple. And that's what this opening remind me of here in chapter 18. He says, you must not walk in their customs. He said, you must practice my judgments, keep my statutes, and by walking in them. Keep my statutes and my judgments. For the man who does these things will live by them. If you're living by these, then how can you live by others? Very simple. I don't need to prove what's pagan or not. If I'm doing what the scriptures tell me, I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to practice any other holiday. I don't need to be doing any other ritual. I don't need to be doing anything else. Because I'm already wrong once it has nothing to do with what I'm reading. All right. Just wanted to say that. Verse 6.
None of you are to approach any close relative to have sexual relations. I am the Lord. You must not expose the nakedness of your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. You must not have sexual relations with your father's wife. It would dishonor your father.
All right, so verse 6 is just setting up the majority of the rest of this chapter. None of you are to approach any close, let me see. Yeah, it's setting up what we're about to be reading here. Close relatives. So it says we're not supposed to have sexual relations with close relatives. And then now in the next handful of verses, it gives us the definition of close relatives. You do not have to make it up on your own. What is a close relative? The very first one it talks about is your mother, which is the nakedness of your father. She is your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. You must not have sexual relations with your father's wife, because in every circumstance, not every wife your father has to be your mother. So that's why it's written two different ways. You are not to have relations with your father's wife. That is your mother. And if it isn't your mother, then you're still not supposed to have sexual relations with your father's wife, because it exposed his nakedness. So verses 7 brings me to the story of Ham and Noah. Genesis 9:22, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father. So this is the key verse to unlock what's happening, because it gives it in almost like a code. The nakedness of the father is relations with his wife. So that's clearly what is being spoken of. Ham having relations with Noah's wife, his mother. And yeah. So let's continue. Verse 9.
You must not have sexual relations with your sister, either your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born in the same home or elsewhere. You must not have sexual relations with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, for that would shame your family.
All right, so far we have your mother or your father's wife, we have direct sisters, and we have your daughters, your daughter's daughter or your son's daughter. So your children's children, aka your grandchildren, are no relations. Verse 11 now.
You must not have sexual relations with the daughter of your father's wife, born to your father. She is your sister.
Which we would call stepsister. Stepbrother, stepsisters against Torah. Verse 12.
You must not have sexual relations with your father's sister. She is your father's close relative.
All right, now we add aunts and uncles to that list. All of these are too close of kin to have sexual relationships with. Verse 13.
You must not have sexual relations with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's close relative. You must not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual relations with her. She is your aunt.
And a wife, and that's still adultery. Like I said, they give different angles, but I mean, that's adultery clear as day, regardless of whose wife it is, right?
You must not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife. You are not to have sexual relations with her. You must not have sexual relations with your brother's wife. That would shame your brother.
All right, so stop here. This verse 15 reminds me of a story of the daughter-in-law, even though it was accidental. We see that with Judah and Tamar, his daughter-in-law, told her to remain a widow at thy father's house. And just fast forwarding, verse 25, when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these? The signet and bracelets and staff. And Judah acknowledged them and said, she has been more righteous than I. And he knew her again no more. So he did not do that no more because it was wrong, even in his days, because obviously Judah was before the laws of Moses were given. Not saying they didn't have laws, but even in this time, it was wrong for him to do that, even though Judah did it accidentally. And then we have verse 16. You must not have sexual relations with your brother's wife. That would shame your brother. Absolutely. And if we go to verse 16 in the Targums, it says, the nakedness of thy brother's wife thou shalt not dishonor in the lifetime of thy brother or after his death, if he have children, for it is the nakedness of thy brother. It gives an extra description because of this verse in Deuteronomy 25, 5 and 6. If brethren dwell together and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, which is directly connected with how this happened with Judah, was because Tamar was supposed to be given to the brother and she wasn't. Continuing though, her husband's brother shall go into her unto her and take her to be to him to his to wife and perform the duty of an husband brother unto her. And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead, that his name be not put out of Yasharallah. So that's the reference. This is the only circumstance where a brother can take a former wife of your brother, as if she has no children. She is not to go out and just marry anybody. All right, just clarifying for verse 16. All right, let's continue. Verse 17.
You must not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. You are not to marry her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter and have sexual relations with her. They are close relatives. It is depraved. You must not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is still alive.
All right, we see this story. And that's why I said, like Jacob, this was before the laws of Moses were given. Obviously, they had laws, commandments from the Most High, but it doesn't mean every stipulation in the laws of Moses was given to them. And it's exact because we all know about the story of Rachel and Leah and their beef with Jacob. And just a quick summary from Genesis 30. When Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister. And then there's a whole story about the mandrakes being found in the field. and brought them, and Reuben brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldst thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. Just summarizing it, the reason why I just read that and just showing the beef. And it's like for good reason. Two sisters, right? Could it add even more beef? For sure. All right, verse 19. Let's continue reading.
You must not approach a woman to have sexual relations with her during her menstrual period.
Which we're going to read in 2 chapters, which we already read last week. Leviticus 20, you shall not approach a woman in her menstrual cycle. It's not just you'll be unclean. If you do it on purpose, if a man shall lie with a woman having her sickness and shall uncover her nakedness, he has discovered her fountain, her flow, and she has uncovered the fountain of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off from among their people. So it's not a choice. You just can't be like, oh, I'm unclean. We're not supposed to do it. Verse 20.
You must not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife, and thus defile yourself with her.
And this is, like I said, they say it in multiple ways about a man's wife, your brother's wife, your neighbor's wife, your father's wife. In general, Exodus 20:14 summarized all of everyone's wives. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Having sexual relations with anyone's wife is summarized in the 10 Commandments right there. Right. Continue. Verse 21.
You must not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You must not lie with a man as with a woman. That is an abomination.
We're going to talk more about Molech in another chapter in this Torah portion. Talks about this again. But verse 22, you must not lie with a man as with a woman. That is abomination. Spoken more in Romans 24:27. Wherefore Elohim also gave them up to uncleanliness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of Elohim into a lie and worshiped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause Elohim gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into what which is against nature. So obviously saying they're doing the opposite. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one towards another. So they're pretty much saying women are now with women and men are now with men. Men with men working that which is unseemly and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meet. Nothing new under the sun. My goodness, today's time, right? Verse 23.
You must not lie carnally with any animal, thus defiling yourself with it. A woman must not stand before an animal to mate with it. That is a perversion.
And bestiality. And just wanted to bring up this god Pan. Oh, of course. This god Pan. It is depicted pretty much as a mythology devil, depicted as a half man, half goat. And this is where you get the idea of the horn god. And it's not talking about the horn on top of his head either. And this god is a Greek god of nature and fertility. He has the legs, feet, and horns of a goat with the torso, arms, and head of a man. So he's a chimera. Everything about this is unclean. He is often pictured with his flute, dancing, laughing, or alluring suggestively. So The embodiment of sexual energy, Pan reminds us to focus on the pleasures of now. He can help us help us keep connected with the wild places within ourselves. Bestiality, in a nutshell, connected with this God, it's very disturbing. But this is Satanism, and just hidden in mythologies and weird stories, right? Verse 24.
Do not defile yourselves by any of these practices, for by all these things the nations I am driving out before you have defiled themselves. Even the land has become defiled, so I am punishing it for its sin, and the land will vomit out its inhabitants. But you are to keep my statutes and ordinances, and you must not commit any of these abominations, neither your native born nor the foreigner who lives among you. For the men who were in the land before you committed all these abominations, and the land has become defiled. So if you defile the land, it will vomit you out as it spewed out the nations before you. Therefore, anyone who commits any of these abominations must be cut off from among his people. You must keep my charge not to practice any of the abominable customs that were practiced before you, so that you do not defile yourselves by them. I am the Lord your God.
Ain't that something? Everything we just got done reading. He says, for the men who were in the land before you committed all these abominations. And guess what? We still here, and every single one of these abominations are still happening frequently everywhere. And that is chapter 18. 19. Yeah, that was chapter 18. We're on chapter 19. All right, so Leviticus 19 is like a mini commandments, Exodus 20. It's just, like I said, commandments for holiness. A lot of general statutes are mentioned as we were listening in the book of Exodus when they were just giving out the Torah, clarifying holiness. And, well, we'll get to it. Let's get it. Verse 1.
Leviticus 19. Then the Lord said to Moses, Speak to the whole congregation of Israel, and tell them, Be holy, because I, the Lord your God, am holy.
Where we heard that from? 1 Peter 15:16. But as he which has called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation. Because it is written, Be ye set apart, for I am set apart.
Each of you must respect his mother and father, and you must keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God.
There we go. We have the fifth commandment in Exodus 20 and the fourth commandment. We're going, like I said, we're going to get a lot of repeats, witnesses to what we got in Exodus.
Do not turn to idols or make for yourselves molten gods. I am the Lord your God. When you sacrifice a peace offering to the Lord, you shall offer it for your acceptance. It shall be eaten on the day you sacrifice it, or on the next day. But what remains on the third day must be burned up. If any of it is eaten on the third day, it is tainted and will not be accepted. Whoever eats it will bear his iniquity, for he has profaned what is holy to the Lord. That person must be cut off from his people. When you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap to the very edges of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You must not strip your vineyard bare, or gather its fallen grapes. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner. I am the Lord your God.
What story pops in your head from verse 9 and 10? What story? I'll tell you the story of Ruth. This commandment is the whole reason of how Boaz found his future wife. Chapter 2 of Ruth, 2 through 5. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, go, my daughter. And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. Exactly what we're reading about. Like, leave some after you reap it. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging to unto Boaz, who was the kindred of Elam, Elam, Elamlach. Oh my goodness. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, the Most High be with you. And they answered him, Hiya, bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, whose damsel is this? All from this commandment. You are not to reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. And that's exactly, we see what Ruth was doing there. All right, verse 11.
You must not steal. You must not lie or deceive one another. You must not swear falsely by my name and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You must not defraud your neighbor or rob him. You must not withhold until morning the wages due a hired hand.
Verse 13. Not really talking about the first part. Obviously, we shouldn't be trying to fraud people. The second one here, you must not withhold until morning the wages due a hired hand. So we see a part of the parable story in Matthew 20, verse 8. So when evening was come, the Lord of the vineyard says unto his steward, call the laborers and give them their hire, beginning from the last unto the first. So just even in this story, we see that you hired someone for a day's work. It is a commandment to give a man his wage and not make him wait until the day after, etc. So just food for thought if you're in a position of that, like it's your company. Maybe you can have your own system that the world isn't doing. You don't have to do what everyone else is doing. Do what the Most High tells you to do, and you shall be blessed. Pay people their wage the day they work it. Right. Verse 14.
You must not curse the deaf or place a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. You must not pervert justice. You must not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the rich. You are to judge your neighbor fairly.
And just saying real quick, these commandments really got to take in, because in life, I think there's plenty of times where you think you're doing something good because you're like, oh, but this person's poor. Just let them do it. Let them give them the favor. That person doesn't need it. That is not scripture, guys. That mindset, you could really feel like you're doing something good because you're like, I helped out. I had a decision today to help out this person, even though the poor person wasn't in the right, they needed it more, so I gave it to them. That's not righteous judgment. If they're wrong, don't pervert justice. It doesn't matter if they're poor. Now, if it's something of your belongings, you just choose to give it to someone. That's not talking about. I'm talking about if you are saying who's right, who's wrong, who gets this. It does not matter if they are poor or they are rich. You simply simplify it by making the right decision. If they're right, it's theirs. If they're wrong, they get the consequences or whichever, right? Don't think you're above the law of the Most High and you can make a decision that you're favoring someone even though they're not in the right. Verse 16.
You must not go about spreading slander among your people. You must not endanger the life of your neighbor. I am the Lord. You must not harbor hatred against your brother in your heart. Directly rebuke your neighbor, so that you will not incur guilt on account of him. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against any of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
There we have. You must not harbor hatred against your brother in your heart. Directly rebuke your neighbor, so you will not incur guilt. Luke 17:3-4. Take heed to yourself. If thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him. And if he repent, forgive him. And if he trespass against thee 7 times in a day, 7 times in a day, turn again to thee, saying, I repent, thou shalt forgive him. Matthew 18:15. Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault between thee and him alone. And if he shall hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother. And it goes into more if they don't listen, right? But scripture is consistent from the old covenant to the new. Go to your brother, go to your neighbor, go to whoever that you feel like has done you wrong, and be straightforward with it. And then blood is off your hands. You doing what you're supposed to do. Once again, more statutes. Verse 19.
You are to keep my statute. You shall not crossbreed 2 different kinds of livestock. You shall not sow your fields with 2 kinds of seed, and you shall not wear clothing made of 2 kinds of material.
2 kinds of material. We'll see this later in the Torah in Deuteronomy 22:11. Thou shalt not wear a garment of divers sorts, as of woolen and linen together. Woolen is animal, linen is plant. You put them together, bad things happen. I have a TikTok video. It's on Instagram, TikTok. And in a nutshell, all materials, all fabrics have frequencies. When you mix the fabrics, the frequencies change. And if you mix like an animal fabric as wool mixed with a plant fabric as linen, it will take 5,000 level of frequency and it'll drop it all the way down to 0 in a nutshell. So when he tells you to do things in a certain way, you may not understand it, but there's purpose there. This is one of my favorite examples of you thinking you're too smart or something doesn't matter because you can't directly see the purpose behind it, but there is a purpose behind it. Before studies like this, just reading things like that just sounds like so much work. It's like, oh my goodness, really? I gotta buy clothes that don't have this mixed with this. And people complain and say, oh, it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal. A good thing the law's done away with. And all the Most High is telling you, hey, I made these things to be a certain way. And if you want to be healthy, if you want to optimize your lives, then you want to do it in these ways I'm telling you. But everyone wants to be too smart for their own good and not just listen to his commandments, because at the end of the day, he's trying to protect us and make sure we're not going to get sick. So when he says, do not mix things, do not mix it. Do your best in all facets and all commandments and stop acting like you're so smart that you don't have to do something because your mind told you to, right? Leaning on your own understanding. All right, continuing verse 20 here.
If a man lies carnally with a slave girl promised to another man, but who has not been redeemed or given her freedom, there must be due punishment. But they are not to be put to death, because she has not been freed.
So this whole chapter, last chapter, we We read about all the unlawful sexual relations, and I think almost all of those were the penalty was death. All of those, the penalty was death. And so now we're getting into some sexual relations that are wrong, but the penalty isn't death. Okay. Just pointing out the differences that we're reading on in this chapter.
The man, however, must bring a ram to the entrance to the tent of meeting as his guilt offering to the Lord. The priest shall make atonement on his behalf before the Lord with the ram of the guilt offering for the sin he has committed, and he will be forgiven the sin he has committed. When you enter the land and plant any kind of tree for food, you shall regard the fruit as forbidden. For 3 years it will be forbidden to you and must not be eaten. In the 4th year, all its fruit must be consecrated as a praise offering to the Lord. But in the 5th year you may eat its fruit. Thus your harvest will be increased. I am the Lord your God. You must not eat anything with blood still in it. You must not practice divination or sorcery. You must not cut off the hair at the sides of your head or clip off the edges of your beard.
All right. So we have some interesting rules for, the harvest of the plant, fruit tree, obviously more of the blood, divination. And then we get verse 27. You must not cut off the hair at the size of your head and clip off the edges of your beard. All right. So this is my understanding and interpretation of verse 27. Here's some visuals. A lot of this stuff is, not being like the other nations, which, we see the top part when it says round the corners of your heads. I mean, that's how you would do it. Rounding the corner of your head. And then neither shall thou mar the corners of thy beard. And by no coincidence, this look is called a goat tee. And the pagan god I just mentioned, Pan, the corners of his beard. We can look over here. The corners of his beard is cut, so it's just this goatee look here. And then also, if you literally look at a goat, which is why the name comes from goatee, a goat literally just doesn't have a beard. The corners, there's no corner to a goat's beard, if you want to call it that. It's just the goatee. And obviously, there's people that can't grow a beard on the side of their face. You're not cutting it that way. That's just the way it is. I don't think that is implying this verse is implying your beard that only grows in a goatee type shape. But to cut it and make it look that way on purpose, mar the corners of thy beard, he says it's to not do that. All right, continuing. Verse 28.
You must not make any cuts in your bodies for the dead, or put tattoo marks on yourselves. I am the Lord. You must not defile your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be prostituted and filled with depravity. You must keep my Sabbaths and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am the Lord. You must not turn to mediums or spiritists. Do not seek them out, or you will be defiled by them. I am the Lord your God.
And another story, we got the story of King Saul, 1 Samuel 28, 5 through 9. Saul saw the hosts of the Philistines. He was afraid, and his heart greatly trembled. And when Saul inquired the Most High answered him not, neither by dreams, nor by Urim, nor by the prophets. Then said Saul unto his servant, Seek me a woman that has a familiar spirit, a medium, that I may go to her and inquire of her. And his servant said to him, Behold, there is a woman that has a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself and put on other raiment, and he went and two men with him. And they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by familiar spirit, and bring me him up, whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, Behold, thou knowest what Saul has done, how he has cut off those that have familiar spirits, because that's what he was supposed to do, and the wizards, and out of the land, wherefore thou layest there a snare for my life. Right. And so obviously, you know the rest of the story. Saul goes through with this and he consults with a medium and does wickedness because he was a wicked man. As we see here, verse 31.
You are to rise in the presence of the elderly, honor the aged, and fear your God. I am the Lord. When a foreigner resides with you in your land, you must not oppress him. You must treat the foreigner living among you as native born, and love him as yourself. For you were foreigners in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You must not use dishonest measures of length, weight, or volume. You shall maintain honest scales and weights, an honest ephah, and an honest hin. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You must keep all my statutes and all my ordinances, and follow them. I am the Lord.
And that is chapter 19. Last chapter of this portion, chapter 20. All right, now we're getting into the punishments. Yeah, we're going to get into the punishments. And like I was saying, all of those in the last chapter was the death of was the penalty for those sexual immoralities, and we're going to get that confirmation in this chapter.
Leviticus 20. Then the Lord said to Moses, Tell the Israelites, any Israelite or foreigner living in Israel who gives any of his children to Molech must be put to death. The people of the land are to stone him, and I will set my face against that man and cut him off from his people, because by giving his offspring to Molech he has defiled my sanctuary and profaned my holy name. And if the people of the land ever hide their eyes and fail to put to death the man who gives one of his children to Molech, then I will set my face against that man and his family and cut off from among their people both him and all who follow him in prostituting themselves with Molech.
Ooh, this is nothing new under the sun as everything else. We see in the days of Solomon, then did Solomon build an high place for Shamash, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, and for Molech, the abomination of the children of Ammon. And then Amos speaks on this, and even Stephen speaks on it in the book of Acts as well. He quotes from Amos 5:26, but ye have borne the tabernacle of your Malak, and chewing your images, the star of your God, which ye made to yourselves. So he's giving them the warnings, which most likely means they're going to do it. I think everything he told the Israelites not to do, and I think literally 100% at one time in history, they all have done all of these commandments. Some just never stop, like Molech. And modern day, I would say it's the stroke of the embryo in the womb. All of this stuff is, remember, it's demon worship, as it said, goat demon sacrifices in the other chapter. And we see in Enoch 69 that he discovered to the children of men every wicked stroke of the ruach and of devils, the stroke of the embryo in the womb to diminish. And we'll stop there. So aka modern day abortion, just put it simply. And then talking about Molech, just want to show the similarities of a woman's reproductive organ looking like a bull head, as we see there. Kind of transforms it piece by piece so you can see. And by no coincidence, the place of reproduction emulates the place where you destroy what you have produced. Have more studies on this as well. The Star of Your God Rimfan on my YouTube, that's the name of that study that goes into more details about all of this. But we're just going to stop right there with sacrifices to Moloch, the god of the Star of Your God Rimfan or Chewin. All right, continuing, verse 6.
Whoever turns to mediums or spiritists to prostitute himself with them, I will also set my face against that person and cut him off from his people. Consecrate yourselves, therefore, and be holy, because I am the Lord your God, and you shall keep my statutes and practice them. I am the Lord who sanctifies you. If anyone curses his father or mother, he must be put to death. He has cursed his father or mother. His blood shall be upon him.
All right, so the remainder of this chapter, or majority of the remainder of this chapter, is on the punishments over the sexual immoralities that we read about before.
If a man commits adultery with another man's wife, with the wife of his neighbor, both the adulterer and the adulteress must surely be put to death. If a man lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both must surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. If a man lies with his daughter-in-law, both must surely be put to death. They have acted perversely. Their blood is upon them. If a man lies with a man as with a woman, they have both committed an abomination. They must surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. If a man marries both a woman and her mother, it is depraved. Both he and they must be burned in the fire, so that there will be no depravity among you. If a man lies carnally with an animal, he must be put to death, and you are also to kill the animal. If a woman approaches any animal to mate with it, you must kill both the woman and the animal. They must surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. If a man marries his sister, whether the daughter of his father or of his mother, and they have sexual relations, it is a disgrace. They must be cut off in the sight of their people. He has uncovered the nakedness of his sister. He shall bear his iniquity. If a man lies with a menstruating woman and has sexual relations with her, he has exposed the source of her flow, and she has uncovered the source of her blood. Both of them must be cut off from among their people. You must not have sexual relations with the sister of your mother or your father, for it is exposing one's own kin. Both shall bear their iniquity. If a man lies with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered the nakedness of his uncle. They will bear their sin. They shall die childless. If a man marries his brother's wife, it is an act of impurity. He has uncovered the nakedness of his brother. They shall be childless. You are therefore to keep all my statutes and ordinances, so that the land where I am bringing you to live will not vomit you out. You must not follow the statutes of the nations I am driving out before you. Because they did all these things, I abhorred them. But I have told you that you will inherit their land, since I will give it to you as an inheritance, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has set you apart from the peoples. You are therefore to distinguish between clean and unclean animals and birds. Do not become contaminated by any animal or bird, or by anything that crawls on the ground. I have set these apart as unclean for you. You are to be holy to me, because I, the Lord, am holy, and I have set you apart from the nations to be my own. A man or a woman who is a medium or spiritist must surely be put to death. They shall be stoned. Their blood is upon them.
And the more we read the book of Leviticus, we see that outside of the direct rituals of the sacrifices, majority of the rest of Leviticus is about telling the Levites how to teach and show the people to distinguish between clean and unclean. To disregard the book of Leviticus is just crazy because those are the instructions given to the Levites to help the people be holy and clean, as we just finished off this Torah portion reading. Shabbat Shalom, Yasharallah. Tawadah, thank y'all for joining me. And may Abba be with each and every one of you throughout your week, and that your walk may strengthen with these instructions we read in this portion. Once again, Shabbat Shalom.